Yeah, they got introduced to libertarian philosophy through Skankfest, so that's pretty.
Well, I'll tell you,
dope.
it's so bizarre, right? So there's a whole bunch of people who I've met over the years who found Legion of Skanks from part of the problem. Like who were like, oh, I came in, or like, however they came in. Oh, I found you on Rogan, and then I loved your political shit, and then I listened to part of the problem, and then I was like, oh, this guy's on a comedy podcast too. Let me check that out. And then we fell in love with the comedy podcast. And then there's a ton of people who come over the opposite way, like, oh, we loved Legion of Skanks, and we thought it was so funny, and then we were like, Dave does this political podcast too. All right, let's give it a shot. And then listen to that, and then we're like, oh, he's actually making a lot of sense. And so there's like this door both ways, which is very bizarre to me. But what's so funny too is that there's so many people who go, oh, I came in from Legion of Skanks. I loved the story about like whatever, like Lewis banging, like 3 chicks, or like, him sticking a gun up Jay's butt or something like that. And then we were like, oh, Dave's great. He has a political podcast. Let's go check that out. And then that's how they came into this libertarian world where I am called a fucking right-wing fascist or something like that. You're like, well, dude, I just brought these people in on this threesome story into libertarianism. So like, I don't know if it's completely fits that world, but weirdly, there is a lot of crossover in both of those directions. And there is a certain like angle where they all kind of do fit together that like believing in liberty, and I believe in like, and I'm kind of against like woke PC culture, and I'm for like comedians just like being comedians and having free speech to say what they want to say, and that all kind of does tie in together in some weird way. So there's something where I think the type of person, not always, but the type of person who's into my thing on one side is probably going to be into my thing on the other side. Obviously there's exceptions to that, but that's been very interesting for me to see over the years, like the people, like which way they came in, and the ones who like both and stuff like that. And you'll see at Skankfest there'll be people who are literally like, it's like a range from like people who are like, hey dude, like I was a meth head for years, and listening to Legion of Skanks was like, while I was getting clean, was really helpful. It's great to be here at Skankfest. And then there'll be like someone else there who's like, I was reading Ludwig von Mises, and then I heard about Skankfest. And like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I feel like part of my goal here tonight is to push people through that door from the politics into the comedy side, because like so many people in the LP could use a little bit more comedy in their life. And like
a lot of people in the
more of that
a lot of people in the LP could use a little bit more a little bit more of a release in their life.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think comedy could be one of those. Yeah.
And I mean, we talked about this the last time you were on, like 2 years ago, about how comedy has always kind of been that libertarian vibe since its kind of origins in the 30s and 40s. And it's always been a viable method to reach people that I think the liberty movement in the like organized version, has just completely ignored for the most part. Like, I think George Carlin has done more for liberty than most libertarian politicians. There's probably a few exceptions that I would put above him, but he's up there on the list of like waking people up and shoving the red pill down people's throats.
Oh,
and
yeah,
like,
100%. Yeah.
And like he would have never have joined the LP per se, but like if the LP in that day had actually like tried, maybe. Like and like really like kind of had him perform at the national convention in like 88 when Ron Paul was running for president or something like that. Could you imagine those two on a stage together? Like, and we can do that kind of shit now, and we're starting to a little bit. Like there's plenty of people like yourself who are doing a lot more of that, and I think the movement is finally starting to give them the recognition that they should. But we can do a lot more. I want to do a lot more.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.